Document it.
I need to figure out how I'm gonna best merge my mic angle and being able to elevate my leg. So I gotta.
What's wrong with your leg?
I fractured a toe on Tuesday.
Oh no!
What's wrong with you guys?
Ow.
Jesus Christ!
I swear to God, dog. I can't. I got it into my shoe today for the first time. I was able to go to the Wawa and like limp up to the Wawa at least, so I'm not like immobile. But
limp up to the Wawa.
the first 2 days of pain, like at rest, were insane. And now that I'm doing the Advil pretty consistently and elevating it, and the swelling's gone down a little bit, it's less bad. But like, you can't even go get it treated. All they're gonna do is buddy tape it to the other toe and tell you to take Advil. That's what I did.
Yep.
So. It's taped. I'm chilling. But yeah, no, I'm just the misfortunes of taking on a Looney Tunes character for me now. So I have no idea what's next.
I gotta say, Maddie, I'm so tired of this. You gotta stop getting injured and sick. This is not.
I know. This is unusual for me. I didn't need to go to urgent care for 10 years. And then the first 2 weeks of this year, urgent care, ER, broke a toe.
It's causing me a lot of stress. And I know that's not your number one concern, but really, you can't do this.
Me too, actually.
You can't do this to me. You can't do this to us, frankly. Let's introduce the pod now that we're.
Let's introduce the pod.
50 minutes in.
Okay, let's introduce the pod. Hi, hi, welcome.
Let's see how coachable you are, Peter.
Okay. Well, welcome to Tired, the podcast, the car.
Nope.
Leave it in.
It's staying.
The car podcast for people who understand that cars are bad.
It's great. Yeah. I'm gonna get to cut all these together sometime for a fun little pod advertisement of all the times we've made different efforts at saying the name of the pod. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. But yeah, our intended subject this evening was going to be we talked about IMSA. We did our IMSA Primer a week or two ago, and but there were some things that we didn't really hit, and so
we didn't prim at all.
There are some things that were unprimmed.
We failed to prim a few things.
We primmed a little.
Yeah. No, we primmed a lot.
We primmed a lot.
I'm very proud of the effort.
There was a lot of primming. There's a lot of primming to do, and we just couldn't get it all.
Sometimes there's some additional prim.
Yeah. I was thinking. My thought was I wanted to talk a little bit just about IMSA and how it relates to the World Endurance Championship, because there is a lot of kind of cross-pollination, and I feel like that's kind of integral to understanding it, and it is kind of interesting in its own right. And then I thought maybe we could just like go through. There's the entry list for the Rolex 24 coming up. We could just kind of go through that and pick out, just talk about
who we love,
cars,
and who we hate, who we hope really fails,
who we root for, who we root against.
Yeah. The good guys and the bad guys. So I was actually at the 24 Hours of Le Mans when the current IMSA/WEC formula was announced, and it was in the room with like 6 other journalists. And I think like historically, one of the tough things about endurance racing or sports car racing is there had been different formulas and different manufacturers who were involved with this type of racing, in Europe, in the WEC, World Endurance Championship, and then in IMSA, the American kind of sports car series, in whatever year that was when I was there, not so long ago. They announced a new formula where cars would be eligible to run in both series, which is like for a manufacturer, a huge fucking deal, because you can develop a car, which is hugely expensive, that can race regularly in the United States and also in Euroland. And that's a huge, obviously, cost savings. So you can have the same car.
Yeah, it's not two completely different rule sets.
Yeah, so you can build the same car. You can build the same car that runs at Watkins Glen that also will run at Le Mans, and that is a massive cost savings and like enticement for manufacturers. And it was like in the room at the time, very exciting, very like, no one really knew like how good it was going to be and like how successful it was going to be at the time, but it was like the fact that it was being done was a big deal, and everybody kind of recognized it right away. It was like, there are going to be Cadillacs at Le Mans. It was like the big takeaway for me. It was like very exciting.
What year was that, Rory? What was that before or after I went? Because I know they had been talking about hypercar when I was there. Like they had kind of like hypercar was going to be the next kind of FIA WEC rule set. But was it before or after that?
Well,
that they started. Were they already talking about convergence at that point?
Yeah, this would have been 20.
It's like 17 or 18?
2017, 2018.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, that the promise of that, it took a while for that. I mean, so WEC announced, okay, we're gonna do this new. I mean, forever there had been the top tier of World Endurance Championship racing, or the series that preceded it. I mean, there were a couple other names that it had, but basically the cars that run at Le Mans and various other venues around the world. There had been, I mean, like going back to the 80s, it was Group C, right? That was the European equivalent of like GTP cars in the US. So you had your Porsche 956s and 962s that kind of just ran everything. But then a lot of the manufacturer money left in the 90s, after, there was kind of early 90s recession. And so in the 90s, there was kind of this weird window where sometimes the overall winners, at Le Mans would not be prototypes. It would actually just be sports cars. And then it kind of started to ramp up again in the 2000s, and they had like these different classifications: LMP1, LMP2, which is still around, but LMP1 was like the top tier, and that kind of continued into like through the aughts, through the teens, and then it got to a point where like all the money had left again, and really Toyota was the only like real manufacturer hanging around, and that's where things were at when they started talking about, okay, we need to come up with a new formula. We're going to call it hypercar, and the first, I mean, Toyota was already in. They just said, okay, we're going to continue with this, and then Aston Martin said, okay, we're in. But there was a lot of like when I was at Le Mans, and that was 2019. I remember driving back to Paris afterwards and just listening to the radio, and they were talking about all of this, and there was a lot of just kind of like speculation and uncertainty about like, all right, we've got two manufacturers committed. Everybody else was kind of on the fence, just like, we're not sure. And then Aston Martin at some point actually pulled out. And then then there was like all this kind of like real uncertainty of just like, well, shit, it's like, we know that there was interest from Ferrari. We know that there was interest from Porsche. We're not really sure what's going on. And then COVID happened. And a weird, they ended up running Le Mans that year. They did it in September rather than in June, as was traditional. And it was super weird because there was nobody there. But the thing that COVID did was, obviously everybody had a lot of time on their hands, and one thing that came out of that was like a bunch of negotiations between IMSA people and WEC people about, okay, how can we actually do this and make this happen, like make this what was referred to as convergence, meaning that the rule sets will be set up in a way that they will be compatible with each other, and you can have this international cross pollination. And what came out of that was two different rule sets that would be eligible in both series. And this is it gets a little bit arcane, but basically the kind of the WEC version was their initial idea was what they called hypercar, and these cars are now the category is described as LMH, so Le Mans hypercar, and these are cars that the manufacturer basically has carte blanche to, they obviously have to work within a certain window of specifications, size and weight and power and everything else. But they can develop their own chassis, they can develop their own engine. It can be hybrid, it cannot be hybrid. And it's kind of like for manufacturers who want to go all in, with their bring their brand identity to the project, and have it just be kind of bespoke. It's like, this is 100% their car. And so Toyota was already in, Ferrari came in, built a hypercar, Peugeot, Alpine, who else? There are a few more. So that's the one version, right? Then you have the kind of the IMSA formula, which they had already been is kind of an evolution of what they had been doing starting in 2017, which was more kind of a combination of spec chassis, from one of four kind of prototype chassis manufacturers. A major manufacturer could go to one of these smaller shops, say, okay, we want to develop a Cadillac, and so we're going to get a chassis from Dallara, which is a company that makes like IndyCar chassis, and we're going to put a Cadillac engine in it, and then we're going to put a body on it that kind of looks like a Cadillac, has Cadillac design language. And this formula, they christened it GTP for the purposes of IMSA, because that harkens back to this previous golden era of IMSA stuff in the 80s. and was super exciting to people. I mean, that pressed my buttons when I saw that. It's like, oh hell yeah. But the kind of technical term for this category is LMDH. So this is Le Mans Daytona prototype, or what is it? Hybrid. Because all of these cars are hybrids, and so the advantage with this is it's for manufacturers who don't want to, spend a shit ton of money, like being like Ferrari and just building a car from scratch. You can come in, get a chassis basically off the shelf, plug your engine in, and make it look like something that came from your car company. And it's still, and the cars are still, because they have their own power plants, like they're still pretty distinctive. They're still pretty different from one another. It's just a little bit cheaper in terms of the development and the commitment from the manufacturers. So all of the IMSA cars have prototypes have kind of adhered to this formula, right? So your BMWs, your Porsches, your Cadillacs, your Acuras, and Lamborghini. The thing is, both of these formulas are eligible to compete in both series. So, and in the WEC, you had a mixture, like from the get-go. I guess last year was the second year, right? 2023 was the first year. So in WEC, you had a mixture of kind of pure hypercars competing against LMDH cars. And in the first season in 2023, it was pretty clear that the kind of the hypercars had the leg up on the LMDH cars. But last year, not so much. Last year, it kind of evened out a bit, and to the point where Porsche took home the not the manufacturers' championship, but the drivers' championship. However, until this year, there hasn't been any like cross-pollination going the other way. There haven't been any hypercars competing in IMSA, although that's going to change this year with the arrival of Aston Martin, who changed their mind once again and said, oh, you know what, we're actually going to do this now that it seems like everybody's having a good time. Maybe we should do this after all. So they're bringing their crazy Valkyrie, normally aspirated V12, which should be pretty fun.
Good. Yeah.
But basically that's kind of the breakdown of that, and so you have this kind of mixture of cars that look pretty similar, look distinctive from each other, but are all recognizably part of the same kind of
class,
broad category. Yeah. But they're actually two separate rule sets, and they're as we move forward over the next few years, I feel like there's going to be more of that. I mean, there have been a number of additional players who have announced their intention to get into it. Genesis, notably, the Hyundai premium brand is going to be bringing their LMDH car starting, I think, next year. Ford, it is rumored credibly, are working on developing a car, a GTP car. I think McLaren is coming in. So yeah, there's more excitement to come. It's going to get even bigger and crazier than it is already.
All right, so let's talk about good guys versus bad guys. Who do we hate? Who do we love? who do we wish the worst on? And who do we root for their success?
Should we just go through the did you guys? I put in the chat. I put the
the list.
a link to the
Yeah, I'm in the PDF.
where is it here? Oh, there we go. Let me bring this into this window. Come on, there we go.
I will say, if you're listening to this and you're skeptical and you're thinking like, I don't know if this is going to be Premiere or not, I would say Google the Cadillac and Porsche takeoff from the pits. This is like a very reliable to me illustration of how fucking cool these cars are. There's like, the cars are hybrids, so when they leave the pit, they leave under electric power, and they sound kind of like a golf cart. And there's like a very high pitched whine from the electric motors. And then if you ever have push started a manual car, get the car rolling and then put it in gear and then start it without the battery, the motor kicks on. So what you're hearing with these cars is they pull away under electric power, very high pitched whine like a golf cart, and then all of a sudden it's like this massive exhaust sound kicking on, and it is the most viscerally exciting experience that I've heard from a race car in the last 20 years of my life. And like, I cannot, they've been doing this for what now, 3 years. And every fucking time I see one of these videos on social media, I watch it, and I watch it again and again and again. It is the most like Star Wars ass vehicle experience on the planet. It rocks. It is so fun. And it's, to me, this is like one of like why this series is so exciting right now, why sports car racing is so exciting right now. It's like that kind of stuff, like that kind of like new, I didn't think there was a new exciting car noise type experience out there for me in the world, and it turns out that there is. It was like, I've been going to these races for a long time, and I've seen a lot of cars, and I'm like excited like I was a little kid.
Good to disconnect. Go ahead, Zach.
Let's get into let's start with let's start in the, we're just looking at the IMSA entry list. I mean the Roar before the 24 started is going on right now as we are recording this. So this is the Cars kind of shakedown weekend before the Rolex 24, and I was watching, before we got on this, I was watching some footage from some of the practice sessions and seeing the cars in their 2025 liveries. Some look pretty good. Some look not so good, but in fun and interesting ways. But yeah, let's maybe just start talking about the Porsche Penskes. Okay. The thing with Porsche, so when this whole thing was coming together, before the 2023 season, we knew who the players were, we knew who was coming in. Porsche was developing this car, which was a big deal because Porsche returning to top tier prototype racing after they had been away for a few years after, like they had their like in the like early teens to mid teens, they had that 919 kind of hybrid LMP1 car that like
Le Mans winning car,
won a bunch, right? I mean, super dominant car,
coming on the heels of Audi's like long run of dominance at Le Mans.
Right.
919 ran by itself, ran against Toyota, but mostly won Le Mans, won the WEC a bunch of times. And then, interestingly, they built a version, I think it was called the Evo, and went around the world basically breaking every fucking track record in the world. Like, this is the fastest car to ever run on this track and that track, which was really neat when they retired the car. But like basically left endurance racing because there were no opponents. There was there's no one in the field. Like, it was like them and Toyota, and then for a number of years, maybe this is the kind of prologue to this, is like, for a number of years, Toyota just ran at Le Mans by themselves as the only car,
unopposed.
As the only car the only car who conceivably could win Le Mans overall, which is why they kind of rejiggered the formula to have something where more people could participate at a lower cost. Anyway.
But Porsche already, I mean, even before that, I mean, I always refer to like the 80s as this time that everybody loves, everybody who was around during the 80s, or lots of people who weren't around, but just kind of lionize this kind of heyday of endurance racing in the 80s, which, I mean, it was great, but also Porsche fucking won everything. Like, every race was a Porsche parade with the 956s, 962s. And I fucking hated them because they just won everything and it was so boring, and I would just root for anybody but the Porsches. And there were lots of other opponents, but it was just like the Porsches just pretty much dominated for upwards of a decade. Mm-hmm. And so Porsche has this long history, and even going back before that to the 70s with the Porsche 917s, both in Europe and in the US, kind of equally dominant prototype sports cars. So Porsche has this long legacy of long history of pretty much, when they get into endurance racing, like, they fucking win everything. They dominate, right? And so when they announced that they were building a car to this new formula, and they were kind of come in 2023, and then they also announced that they were going to partner with Penske, with Roger Penske, as the team that would operate these cars. So it would be a factory Porsche team, but it would be run by Penske. And I feel like most people, even outside of racing, just know the name Penske because it's like there's the rental trucks. If you're moving, you can rent a U-Haul for X amount of dollars, and it will suck. Or you can rent a Penske truck for X plus a few more dollars, and it will be good. It won't break down.
There's also the famous Penske file from the Seinfeld episode, The Barber, with George's.
Oh, I don't know about this.
Oh God, no. It's not explicitly Roger Penske, but there's an episode of Seinfeld where George takes a job at this firm and is famously supposed to be working on the Penske file, and
okay.
In the end, it's discovered that George is not Penske material.
You're not Penske material.
Really? Well, what did you say about that?
Well, yes. Well, this is the thing. So Roger Penske is this guy, now a billionaire, but he was a race car driver back in the 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
And then subsequently team owner, and it kind of built this business empire of car dealerships, of truck rental places, and he's got his finger in a ton of different pies. But the thing that has the calling card of Penske kind of throughout his career has been just this, it's Penske perfect, right? It's just this thoroughness, this just like real commitment to no. we do shit right here, right? We don't fuck around. Like, we dot every I, we cross every T. And historically, like, you know, I mean, for years, every time I moved for years, I would always rent from Penske just because of that. And it was like, it was noticeably true. Although I have to say, and Roger, if you're listening, the last time that I moved, you know, for years when I would go, you know, you'd go to the actual Penske truck rental place, and they would set you up with the truck, and they would check you out in it. They would show you, make sure that you knew how, you know, everything operated. They would, you know, show you how to hook up the trailer. I mean, it was like a very thorough thing where they, you know, they wanted to make sure that you knew how everything worked. And the last time I did, which was like now 6+ years ago, but it wasn't that. It was like, oh, now you go to, I can't remember if he partnered with like Lowe's or Home Depot, but one of the big box stores. And now it's just like they basically just toss you the keys. Here you go.
Yeah.
And send you on your way. And it was pretty disappointing. And actually, and the state of maintenance of one of the trucks that I had was pretty bad. Like, it was like the first time ever, like in a Penske truck, where I was just like, ooh, this like this yeah, it's like transmission was not up to snuff. But anywho, so yeah, so maybe some the Penske Imperial stage is over and is now in decline. But I mean, I have confidence that, like, if I stopped Roger Penske in the paddock and told him about that, like, he would be on the phone. He would be like cracking heads.
You're joking, but that is a certainty.
No, I'm actually serious.
Yeah.
I kind of believe it.
And I would say, like, the poster boy of, like, the Penske Perfect. Like, if you want to understand what Penske Perfect means as far as a driver, Google the current version of Joseph Newgarden, who is like 3% body fat and the most handsome man to have ever piloted a race car. He looks like, and Newgarden, he's a super good dude. You know, I've met him a number of times, starting when he was like a teen IndyCar driver. But he looks like a cartoon of the handsome American race car driver. Like, he is not a real person. He is like it's like if you were to do a caricature of Penske Perfect guy, this is him.
He's got like Swedish pop star face.
He's so handsome. He's like absurdly handsome.
He should have had like a one-hit wonder in the 90s.
Yeah.
He totally.
Very, but also a great guy. Very nice.
Nice.
But the a couple of stories of Roger Penske that I remember is he used to be behind running the IndyCar race at Belle Isle, at the Detroit Grand Prix, and Bud Denker, who was like his right-hand man, but was famously like taking an Auto Week reporter out in a golf cart onto the island, which, like, Belle Isle is a beautiful park, incredible space, you know, a real like gem of a city park. But there was a lot that needed to be improved on it. And Bud took one of the Auto Week reporters out on the island one afternoon and noticed something wrong with like one of the like pedestrian bridges, and made a note about it. And the reporter was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I got to make a note for Roger." And he was like, "Does Roger actually, like, is this something that would like rise to the level of Roger having to know about it?" And he was like, "Roger knows every square foot of this island. He knows every pedestrian out of the island." And he was like, "Literally every time I drive a golf cart onto the island, Roger spends $1 million fixing something." And it's like, he is just like an absolute freak about details, and you know, like being last 2 times ago when I was at Daytona, Daytona 24, Roger was there campaigning the Porsches. He's 87-ish years old or whatever, and I got sleepy pee-pee. Big Rory got a little tired, and it was cold out, and I was not well dressed, and so I went into the back of my Toyota Camry rental car and turned the heat on with my jacket and snuggled up and took a 6-hour nap during the middle of the night. And
6 hours.
Yeah, this was a few times ago. Missed a bunch of the race and just overslept, and I came out and I walked past the Penske pit, and Roger was up there in the pit with headphones on watching the race, and I went to one of his PR guys and I was like, hey, does Roger left at all? He's like, no, Roger doesn't leave. Like, he is here all day the day before. He's here for the entire 24-hour race, and he's having lunch in Ireland this morning. So like when the race wraps up, he is on his private jet to go to Ireland to meet a dealer for lunch. And it was like, the guy's 87 years old, and I was like, is he like on an amphetamine? Like, fair question. I was like, is he like on some to do that? Like, because I am whatever. I was in my late 30s at this point. And it's like, I can't do this. But he's just a machine, man. He's like, it's like my old joke at Auto Week 2 was like, if I was as good at any one thing in the world as Roger seems to be at like literally everything he does, like you could be really successful. But he's just just a freak. Like, anyway, so that's Roger Penske.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I remember watching Le Mans last year, and like, it's 3:00 in the morning in France, and he's right there with the race engineers. He's got the fucking headphones on. He's staring at the monitors.
Yeah.
He's it's like, dude, like, go to bed. And the thing is, like, that's not the only. I mean, he runs IndyCar teams.
Yeah.
It's like he's got so many things going on, but he's seems to be just on top of all of them. Anyway, the point of all of this being, so it's 2023 season is approaching, and it's like, okay, Porsche's coming back into top tier prototype racing, and they're partnered with fucking Penske. It's like, it's over. Right? It's like, we don't even have to do this. It's already over.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, 2023 season, Porsche had some success, but they were not dominant at all. I mean, and actually they looked a little tentative out of the gate, and and so it wasn't as automatic as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of new tech with these new cars. I mean, pretty steep learning curve for everybody coming into it. But it was interesting to see that the Porsches were, and even though they had put in like a lot more kind of development miles of testing than I think pretty much everybody else coming into it, like they had their struggles as well. Although last year they like I say, so first year, like, everybody's kind of on equal footing. Cadillac ended up winning. One of the Cadillacs ended up taking the season championship in IMSA. Last year, Porsche looked like what you'd expected from Penske Porsche. Both here in IMSA in the US and in WEC. They had a pretty notably outstanding season. They have not won at Le Mans still. Ferrari took that the last couple of years. But the Porsches have been looking strong and are looking to continue that in 2025. The cars look pretty much the same. Supposedly they've made like a few kind of calibration changes. They've used one of their jokers, which is like these, the cars are homologated. They kind of have to, stay in the same specifications as when they're homologated, but they are allowed to kind of propose like a few changes throughout the course of the season, which they can then, request from the sanctioning bodies. Hey, we want to do this, and they'll say yay or nay.
Does that go through BOP then, as far as like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they have to kind of clear that. But yeah, so they've made a few tweaks, but the cars look pretty much the same. They've revamped their driving squads a little bit. They let go a couple of their veterans, but got the number 6 car with Matthew Jaminet, Matty Campbell, and for Daytona. This is the other thing. Like one of the reasons that Daytona is the Rolex 24 is a really fun race is that you get all of this kind of standard IMSA crews that the driver, teams of drivers that are going to race through the entire season in IMSA. But because it's a 24-hour race, most teams will add a driver or even two to their squads, and because there's nothing else going on in January, you get a lot of drivers who will spend the rest of their season competing in WEC. They'll come over here and run at Daytona just because it's just a fun thing to do. So Daytona is great because it's kind of, you get even more international flavor, and you get drivers from other disciplines as well. IndyCar drivers, there's some former F1 guys, occasional NASCAR guys, some Australian supercar guys. So that gives it like an extra wrinkle of fun. And so the number 6 Porsche, Kevin Estre, who French driver who runs mostly in WEC for Porsche, but is a if you just go on YouTube and search Kevin Estre Nürburgring pass on the grass, there's this like insane clip of him just making this basically running off road on the Nürburgring to pass another car. He's one of these guys who is just can be crazy aggressive when he needs to be, and will do some pretty breathtaking maneuvers on track. So that's fun. Number 7 car, you've got Felipe Nasr, who I think Rory, you were just talking about your
experience with Mr. Peacock Bass.
Yeah. And Nick Tandy, British guy, and Lawrence Vantour, whose brother I think is also competing. I think Lawrence Vantour, he's mostly a WEC guy, and his brother drives for BMW in the WEC. They have a podcast together that I've never listened to, but I've seen like some video clips from it. It seems like kind of funny because sibling rivalry where they're competing directly against each other and competing cars. So that's kind of a fun dynamic. Who else? So those are the Porsche, the Penske Porsches, the official factory Porsches. There's a couple of other Porsches that also run that are not factory aligned. These are independent teams. There's the Proton Competition car, the number 5 car that is pretty easily recognizable because it's completely yellow. So it's just like a big banana boat car. Do you know any of these guys? Neil Johnny, he's been around forever, right? Tristan Vautier, Nico Pino. I don't know much about those guys other than the fact that I feel like Neil Johnny and Vautier have been around for a long time.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. What's the other Porsche? I'm sorry. The Proton car is not the yellow car. The Proton car is the cool black car, black and gold. The JDC Miller 9 Porsche, that's the yellow one. And I don't know, other than Bruni, I don't know any of these guys, these drivers. Should we move on to Cadillac?
Yeah. This is the team. This is the manufacturer that I root for in the category. I really got like back into IMSA when the big dogs were Cadillac, Acura, and Mazda, who I'm including in the big dogs on an honorary basis.
Yeah, Mazda were always kind of a little dog, but man, they were a fun underdog to root for the longest time. And then when they finally fucking got that win, it felt like
I was there.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I got sprayed with chocolate milk hugging John Doonan after the race. It was a magical moment.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But now from that era, the team that remains, there's Acura and Cadillac. And the thing with the Cadillacs in this series is everybody has moved on to like turbocharged, not small motors, but like turbocharged. Porsche runs a V8, Acura runs a V6, but they're turbo motors, so they sound kind of muffled. And Cadillac runs a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8 that is the most insane sounding motor on the planet, and it's so cool because it's like under stressed. So like the big motor, they said initially when they brought it out, it would run. It was like from Daytona to God, what was it? It was like 6 races or something without ever being cracked open, without even changing the oil. Like the motors were so under stressed that it was like they didn't have to do anything to them.
That's the most insane thing.
Yeah,
to
it
me.
was like multiple race. Usually like a race motor is like good for a race, maybe. Like ideally it is good for a race. But this one was we just run them all year.
Think about it too, because the first, just the first 2 races of the season, you have a 24-hour race where the cars are going 3,000 miles, right?
Yeah.
And then it's followed, a couple months later by a 12-hour race at Sebring.
Yeah.
So I mean, even just like getting through those 2 races, and then you're gonna keep racing. I guess like next is Long Beach, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what you told me. It was
like 5 or 6 races
after Long Beach. Yeah.
5 or 6 races without changing the fucking oil, and like it was so cool initially. Like when they were figuring out this kind of new era of IMSA, being at Daytona and watching like the Mazdas and the Acuras like catch up in the infield, like where there's a lot of like tight twisty turns. And then watching the Cadillacs, the first couple times they ran out on the banking, like on where it was just top speed, the Cadillacs just walking away. And it was like, the satisfaction of that sound and like that, like visual of like these cars fucking have it. Like when it comes to top speed, when it comes to like getting up and moving, they have it. And it's like the other guys, it's like I love the Mazda, I love the Acura, but the Mazda is running like a 2-liter 4-cylinder, and the Cadillacs were just like, all right, like we'll catch you back at the end of the straight.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah, but it was like so satisfying, and they just sound incredible. I mean, it was just like magic.
Yeah, they've got that bottom end, that grunt, just that total low end, just, you know, the old Corvette, which they lost when they went from the C7 to the current gen car, and it went from a cross plane crank V8 to a flat plane, which is the more, you know, so it has. It's more kind of higher revving, and you get more of that kind of high end whale sound out of it. It sounds more like a Ferrari would if it wasn't being strangled by turbochargers. So the Cadillac, it has that kind of just traditional, you know, overhead valve V8, just like, you know, throaty, just low end, just bass, you know, just fucking, we're talking about bass. But with the current ones, it's like that, but it has this other element that it's like, where it sounds like a little bit out of phase. I don't know what it is, or even quite how to describe it, but it sounds like it's got that low end, but it also has like this slightly out of phase kind of chorus effect where, I mean, I can only describe it in like musical terms, but it sounds like you put a chorus pedal on it, where it's like you kind of have this, you know, these two sounds going at once. And I don't know if it's just like exhaust, the way the exhaust is routed, or, I mean, I think they actually like did spend real time calibrating the sound, like they like that was as important to them as actually making tractable power. Like, no, this car has to fucking sound right. It has to sound good. But it does. I mean, it sounds fucking phenomenal. It's such a beautiful and thrilling and just singular sound. It's so cool.
And to me, like there's a stupid thing that I like kind of understand or like believe about cars, and it's like my one of my favorite car things is like the idea that like engine development, like, it has gone on like every year. New manufacturers, and like especially the Germans, love to make these like increasingly baroque and complex ideas of what a gasoline engine can be. And like General Motors kind of hit the V8 formula in like the early 1950s, and have like really had no reason. It was like, you know, very simple, the most basic low tech kind of motor today, but it's like it hasn't really been improved upon. And it's so funny to me that like Porsche and Audi and these like massive companies will keep kind of like trying to figure out a new formula for like how we build an engine, and they really cannot do a better engine than this basic like small block Chevy engine, which is like this Cadillac is basically a small block Chevy, that like you can make whatever type of like infinite power, infinite reliability, and like infinite serviceability and simplicity, and they're super lightweight and like a very like compact package. And if you like put like this 6.2 liter Cadillac V8 next to like an Audi streetcar V8, it is so much more elegant and so much more simple and smaller and lighter. And it's like there's all this effort, 50 years of effort has been put against like improving and making like a better V8 engine, or a better and large displacement or medium displacement engine, and it just can't be done. And it is so funny to me that it's like the motor that was in the Corvette in the late 50s, motor that was in the like Tri-5 Chevys, and the motor that is in this Cadillac. It's just like there's something so satisfying to me, like on a hot rodder level, of like they hit the formula like in the 50s, and it has not been improved upon. Like it's so funny like that is why it's so satisfying to watch the Cadillacs run away on the high banking at Daytona. Is it's just like this is an antique idea. This is like an antique. This is an idea from like mid. It's like watching an SR-71 Blackbird. And it's like, yeah, this is still the fastest fucking plane on the planet. You know what I mean? Like we had this idea when we were drawing the shit with a pencil and a piece of paper. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't computer modeled. It wasn't like, this is like a pinnacle achievement in making power. And it's like, I don't know, it especially in an environment too where the cars look like spaceships and they're so high tech and like so optimized, and it's like, what do you got back there? Well, I got a small block Chevy. Really, like this is fundamentally like 1950s technology. And I know the guys who build the motors and who design this shit would be like super mad to hear me describe it that way, but like fundamentally, like that's what we're talking about, and that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. No, I mean it has been massaged and iterated, in a million ways.
It's like
but
Millennium
the
Falcon ass
architecture.
it's like,
exactly.
It's like Millennium Falcon ass
architecture.
It's like this is the like tried and true, man. Like this is just like, we know how to make whatever. The cars are limited to 600 horsepower, and it's like we can make 600 horsepower with this motor all day long. If you want 1200, we can make 1200, and it's like it's just so. There's not too many things to be patriotic about, but the small black Chevy, I think is like, I think literally in an Auto Week review,
all agree on.
Not good enough. Not good enough.
I think in an Auto Week review, I was like,
not enough for me.
This was the pinnacle of capitalism. Like the pinnacle of capitalist achievement was developing the small block Chevy, and like if that was the only point of it, that's fine. You know, like if that's all we did, that's good.
Yeah. So that's the Cadillac. They also look fucking sick as hell. They look incredible. And this year, they are reunited with Wayne Taylor Racing, who ran the Cadillacs, from 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, going back to, Wayne Taylor, who's been around since like the late 80s, came from South Africa, came into the US and started racing in, I think, the late 80s, early 90s. And long association with General Motors and in the DPI era from 2017 up through 2022, I guess. They were running the factory Cadillacs, or at least one of them, or two. Was it two?
Two,
I can't remember. And then they moved over to Acura for a few years, and now they're back with Cadillac, and that's fun. Wayne Taylor is one of my favorite characters in the paddock.
The seventh Beatle.
He's the seventh Beatle, exactly. I mean, he does have an unmistakable look about him. He's not a big guy. He's kind of a slight guy, but he has his kind of like blue sunglasses that he wears, or not even sunglasses, just blue glasses with blue lenses. But he looks unmistakably. He looks more like a rock star than most of the rock stars that I've associated with in my musical life. And he's a funny guy, and he's also, I mean we've played snippets of him before. He's just like kind of the world's longest suffering man. He's just one of these guys who just like it eats him alive, like every time he doesn't win, and it's like you can just hear the fatigue in his voice when things aren't going his way. the world weariness and just the like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, it's just it's so incredibly relatable, and it's like, you know, it's so funny.
A family of good personalities to get into.
Well, yeah, and then so he has two sons who grew up in racing and who are, you know, now
critically
capable and competitive drivers.
Both championship winners. Critically, as kids who grew up rich, dad owns a race team, and grew up racing drivers, have a very high level of self-awareness about who they are and what's up with that, and like are cool about it. Like I remember they came to the Auto Week office 2012, a long time ago, and were very funny and very like, you know, like talking about working for their dad and like working in the family business and like, you know, like, and even like this year I saw something, Jordan Taylor, the older brother, was like 30 whatever years old, still working for my fucking dad or whatever. Like, it's like very aware of like their place and their kind of privilege, but like, you know, like used to post these incredible videos of them racing go-karts on the driveway track at their dad's house. And super talented and like funny and nice kids. There's like Jordan, the older brother, is more outgoing. He does like he used to do like a Rodney Sandstorm character where it was like he wore a Jeff Gordon jacket and he was kind of like a Florida man. It's like not all that well conceived, but like it was like a cute thing.
It's pretty funny.
It was funny, especially initially.
It's pretty funny.
But I will.
He's got zillennial energy, like,
yes,
and he would have been great on Vine.
Yes.
Like that's a guy who like
absolutely.
Vine was made.
I think
for.
he actually was great on Vine. I think he was.
Probably
I think he was. But if you can dig it up, the best Jordan Taylor media for my money is he did this little advice video series where it was like him sitting next to a lava lamp, and there's one about him hooking up with this woman who's married to somebody else, and he gets spotted getting a massage from her on TV by her husband, and like the way that he explains the confrontation with this other man's wife is so fucking funny and so relatable. And it's like absolutely one of the goofiest, funniest things I've ever seen in motorsports media. He doesn't do them anymore, but it was so fucking funny. But yeah, they're both great personalities, good kids. I guess not kids, they're grown-ups now, but yeah, I highly recommend the Taylors. And like, just again, like if you're gonna be a fucking rich kid who drives your dad's race cars, like have a sense of humor about it, and like don't take yourself super seriously. Taylor boys, all right in my book.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the thing is, and I mean, I feel like it is worth mentioning that for a long time, like for like 7 or 8 years, like Jordan was not racing for his dad. He was like he was driving Corvettes.
Yeah. He did leave the family business. Oh, Jesus Christ. I was at the IMSA awards banquet where they won the brothers won the championship for Wayne Taylor, and Jordan had just announced that he was like leaving the team to go drive the factory Corvettes, and it was very incredibly emotional. Everybody was crying.
Oh wow.
And it was like, you know, it was like the two brothers had been teammates on their dad's team, and he was leaving, and it was like very sweet, very intense moment. I completely forgot about that, but it was yeah.
So let's see. So there's two cars. Wayne Taylor is running two Cadillacs.
10 and the 40 again?
Yeah, there's the 40 car, which is the Jordan car.
Mm-hmm.
It's him. It's Louis Delatraz, who's great. Alex Lynn, who I guess has called in sick. He's a British driver who runs Cadillacs in WEC. And Kamui Kobayashi, who is
Hot dog eating
Toyota
champion.
driver
Oh.
in no.
Different guy.
In WEC, he's kind of like he's like the kind of like the captain, right?
Yeah.
Of the Toyota kind of WEC effort. And he's cool. He's fun. I like him.
Yeah.
And then you have the number 10 car, which is the Ricky Taylor, Felipe Albuquerque, Will Stevens, British driver who ran Porsches last year. I think he's part of the WEC Cadillac full season effort now. And Brendan Hartley, who's another Toyota driver, Toyota WEC driver, another guy who looks like maybe he looks so much like
Tom York.
what's
No,
that?
He looks like Tom York. He looks like he should be like in a British, like
He's
indie
kind of
band
he's
from
like
the late
he's
90s.
he's from New Zealand. He's a mix of Tom York and what's his Brit from Spoon. What's his last name? Brit
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Daniels,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He has a very indie rock look. I remember Britt Daniel.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
I remember he came on the scene with he was a guy I think who had an F1 seat initially.
He might have, yeah. And I think then he went to he was part of the Porsche 919.
919 program.
Right.
But was super he had a Red Bull seat I think for a minute.
Okay.
And was super promising, and then was like a huge driver in the 2014-2015 Porsche 919 effort in WEC. But has maybe the most, like, of all the people to have never been in a late 90s, early 2000s indie rock outfit, he really looks like he should have been. And it's kind of like one of those tragic, it's like, he really missed it. Like being a race driver, like he really should have played rhythm guitar somewhere. Instead of doing what he's doing, he just has the look.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
he had like that really nice like floppy hair too.
Yeah.
Like a real sad boy situation back in the day. But
Little bit emo.
yeah,
Little emo blonde, but no, he's likable guy.
Yeah,
I've never
very
spoken
fun.
to him, but always seems like. All right, so those are the Wayne Taylor Cadillacs. There's an other Cadillac, which is the run by the team that Action Express that I guess is now being branded as Cadillac Wheelin. Wheelin is their title sponsor. And that's the red one. The I can't remember which of the Wayne Taylor cars. One of them is. Have you seen that? Have you guys seen those cars?
yeah. I looked at them
They've
today.
been unveiled.
Yeah,
They brought over that kind of mirror finish blue from the Acura last year, and then
the Minolta.
and then the other car is and then the other car is like mirror finished silver. It actually looks, I think it looks fucking cool.
Yeah,
It looks like it's got that kind of like, World War II fighter plane, shiny unpainted, when they were just sending them over, like
With
not even
aluminum,
painting them.
polished aluminum.
Yeah, that looks cool. The Wheelin car is the red one. And who do we got? Jack Aitken, who's a Brit, Earl Bamber, who's from New Zealand, and then a couple of guys who I don't know, Frederick Vesti and Felipe Drugovich. They actually the Action Express Cadillac won the championship in 23. right? And still pretty competitive last year. So yeah, so three factory backed Cadillac entries, 2 from Wayne Taylor, 1 from Cadillac Whelan. So we root for them.
There's a race car right now, sports car for life. There's a sports car. Oh,
And like Ricky Taylor, I feel like he's a little more
Reserved.
just kind of, yeah. But Jordan, I mean, he's a fucking goofball, you know.
Yeah.
He's an unabashed goofball. He still does. Like, I mean, his Instagram is hilarious. He posts stuff to YouTube occasionally. It like the thing he was doing last year was like the, you know, sports cars for life thing where he was pretending to be like a sports car YouTuber, you
Yeah.
know, where he's just like he rides his bike and he's just oh, look at the Porsche Penske. Like, I mean, it's just like super goofy, super funny. He posted a picture the other day where it's like, oh, last date night before Daytona, and it's like his girlfriend sitting across from him at a nice restaurant, and he's got his hand like across the table, and he's got 3 Rolexes on his wrist, right? From his three Daytona Rolex 24 wins. And it's like anybody else, like, okay, what the fuck, dude? But it's like, you know, this guy is just so good. I mean, he's taking the piss out of himself, but and I mean, it's just.
He used to also do these like a photo series where he would goof on Lewis Hamilton when Lewis Hamilton was like becoming like a fashion icon and like getting his photo in GQ, and he would do like a the same photo, same expression, same like setup as Lewis Hamilton. Like
My God.
it was so goofy, but yeah, hard not to root for the guy.
The thing that he did last year that cracked me up was his helmet design. He unveiled this new helmet design last year, where on the back of the helmet was like this kind of gilded frame, and then the picture in the frame, it was like that movie Step Brothers. We talked about it just on a recent episode. I know this. You guys haven't seen this, but I know this movie just because like Brandon and Matt, like they in Mountain Goats, like they love this fucking movie, and so we would watch it on the bus so many times, and
that tracks.
But so the picture is like, it's like the picture of the Step Brothers, but instead of being the Step Brothers, it's his dogs. It's like his Labradoodles. Like, but it's in the unmistakable like Step Brothers pose, and with the kind of, you know, the classic like department store photo background, you know. And I thought, like, okay, that's like a funny as hell thing to put on your fucking helmet when everybody else is just like, you know, doing like their, you know, crazy racer designs and like their flags and their
skull on fire,
right, or just you know, fucking glitter and whatever. It's like just the goofiest, like genuine goofball shit.
Yeah, he
It's
also
so
very
funny.
famously like had a absolutely insane fucking mullet for a long time. Like when that was like his calling card up until the mid 2010s, had an utterly outrageous joke mullet, which is like,
Oh, he's baby girl.
yeah, like
Listeners,
like
listeners.
not a hot guy mullet.
Listeners,
Like,
you-
listen, everybody's doing
Excuse me.
everybody's doing a hot guy mullet these days, and it's like what's the Irish actor who does the hot guy mullet? This was not attractive. This was like, this was
Baby, speak for yourself. No, I'm going to need my gays and girlies to immediately Google image search Jordan Taylor mullet because, no, he looks like a total bib in like a couple of these. Not when he's got the beard, but like clean shaven and with the, I want to braid his hair so bad. Wow.
Just and it's like,
oh my God, look at him.
you gotta respect the fucking bit of like, I'm turning my physical appearance that I live with every day into a joke. Like, anyway, I think we know who we like to root for in the UPI category.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at that. Yeah. No, I want to touch it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great hair.
Cool. I didn't know about that. Listeners, I'm finding about this on air for the first time, and I'm having a wonderful day now.
Yep.
I forgot about my toe fracture. I didn't even care. I'm having a great time. Wow.
It's the power of the Tired Pod.